Do you know that the entire advertising industry in billboards and signages emerged as a conflict resolution mechanism between a father-in-law and a son-in-law? The year is 1800 BC, and a young man is fleeing from the wrath of his brother, whom he has just managed to con of his birthright. The rivalry between these two young men transcend our domain into that other domain when they are still in the womb. Their rivalry, even in the womb, was so much that the mother had to consult the intervention of Jehovah God. And Jehovah God came and told this woman, the nations you are carrying are two distinct people, and their rivalries has just begun. Prepare, for the youngest will be served by the eldest. Allow me to give you a crash course on what had happened. You see, Esau and Jacob are twins, but they are twins of a different nature. There are two ways that twins come. When a sperm shoots at the egg, and at the splitting, if this egg splits into two embryos, then at that point they become two embryos of one sperm. The other scenario is when two sperms shoot at the same egg at the same time. When they are splitting naturally as two embryos. That was the classic instance of Esau and Jacob. Esau and Jacob are not seeds of the same sperm. They are two sperms that shoot at the same time. That is why even in their own nature, they are two distinct people. They are two distinct nations. Another classic example was the story of Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel are two sperms that were shot, and two sperms fertilized the same egg. When they broke up having distinct features and distinct natures. Those are two of the classic ways that we have twins. It's either an egg is shot by one sperm, when it splits into two embryos, or two sperms shooting the same egg. When they split, ordinarily they split into two embryos and they become two different people. But that's a conversation for another day. Now let's go back to the subject matter at hand. The two guys are born, and subsequently later in years, as now they have come into full grown of their individual natures, an opportunity presents itself for the young man to perform the prophecy that had passed even before they were born. The young man swindles the eldest, and the eldest at that point becomes a servant to this young man. Out of wrath, the eldest pursues this young man, and the young man runs away to his uncle Laban. No sooner does he arrive at Laban's place than he comes across the most beautiful woman he has ever seen. And automatically he goes into his negotiation mode. The gentleman is a negotiator. And at this point, the gentleman says, I want that. But I realize that I am at a point of a disadvantage. I cannot be able to pay you for your dowry. So this is what we are going to do. Allow me to work for that. I will work for that. I wonder how beautiful this woman was that a man would work for her. That's one of those things that you are never in love until you find a woman that you're able to stake all your life and work just for her. So this man works for that woman for 7 years. At the time 7 years elapses, the uncle swindles this man. Where does a swindler go for help when a swindler himself has been swindled? So the man feels it, takes it in, and then he goes back to the negotiation table that allow me to renegotiate. He negotiates another 7 years for that woman. I wonder how beautiful this woman must have been for a man to give away 14 years of his life. So the man works for 14 years. At the lapse of the 14 years, he has what he has wanted. He finally has the woman, but they are broke. But now he must fend and he must provide for both wives. Now he has to work, but he has nowhere to work. Still goes back to his uncle and says, I will work for you. And he works for another 6 years. Now it's 20 years. And as he works for his 20 years, his family has grown and he does not want conflict with the uncle. He comes up with another proposition. In life, always prepare yourself to be a person of negotiation. A person of negotiation will always out-negotiate any circumstance he finds or she finds herself in. He negotiates with the uncle. I have realized that you have prospered, and I want what is duly mine. To which he comes up with a proposal that I will go through your work and allow me to work for you, but I don't want you to pay me directly, because a time is coming that you will say that you made me rich. And I don't want that. I don't want that reputation on my CV that Laban made me rich. I want it always to be my strength, my ingenuity, my sweat equity made me rich. So the guy enters into an agreement with the uncle, and out of what they agreed, the uncle comes back later after passage of time and says, oh, young man, this is the problem with you young men. You are too forgetful. They renegotiate again, and then they go back. And he works after passage of time. The uncle comes back and swindles him the last time. The man swindled his brother one time. The uncle out-swindles him 4 times. Where do you go for help? Where do you go for justice when you yourself is a swindler? Your entire identity is a swindler. Where do you go for justice? The uncle swindles this guy because even the name himself is Jacob. So anytime the uncle engaged with this man, the uncle knew, I'm dealing with a swindler. I'm dealing with a swindler. So this is the point whereby I wanted us to arrive at. And I will pass through all your flock day today, removing from thence all the speckled and spotted cattle, and all the brown cattle among the sheep, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and of all that will be my hire. To this point, the uncle says, no, young man, you forgot. When we had agreed, we had said the same. So this young man says, now, uncle, this is what we are going to do for the very last time. All the ones that will be speckled, pinstriped, brown, and all that will be yours. The ones that we have never seen, those are the ones will be mine. Now remember, when this young man sought for intervention from Jehovah, Jehovah gave him a dream. And in his dream, he saw that he took rods of green poplar and hazel and chestnut tree, and piled white streaks in them, and made them white appear, which was in the road. And he set them in the feeding troughs. And when the cattle came, and as they took water, looking at the rods while they mated, then the offspring of the cattle were in the image that was in the rod. And from that is how we got the advertising industry in billboards and signages. Whenever you are looking at a billboard, you are in your most intimate point. There is something about you that craves the identity of what you're looking at. Whenever you're looking at posters, there is something in your most intimate place that is always craving, what if I could do that? What if I could become that person? What if I could become that polished? What if I could become just like that gentleman in that image? What if I could hold such a girl as my wife? That is how the entire advertising industry originated, from a classic story in the Bible. I've always told us that the Bible is a manual for life, career, and business, as much as it helps us also for spiritual life. You need to have the ability to go into the Bible and extract principles for life that you can employ. The Bible can make you competitive in ways you've never imagined. The classic industry today we have all over the world emerged from a story in the Bible. Whenever you're looking at an advertisement, you're looking at an advertisement in your most intimate of moments. That is a point where there's something within you craves. What if I could just have that car? I might identify with the status of that gentleman driving that car. What if I might just have that woman? I will identify with that. What if I might just have such a man in my life? That is how the entire advertising industry emerged. My name is Ogwang, and I'm wondering, have you ever looked at that story from that angle? I am the principal at Franchise and Licensing Institute. We exist to help you convert your intellectual property into incredible things at the marketplace that you've never imagined. If you have intellectual property or you need help with your intellectual property, please do not hesitate to reach us. I'm waiting to hear from you. Until then, take care, God bless, and bye-bye.